Talk.
If you want to each other. I'm doing the Facebook thing, so.
Great.
How's your new space going, Maggie?
Well, it's quieter today than the last time we chatted, but it's going. It's like it's really moving forward. They've put up a bunch of drywall. The kitchen is like, I mean, all the mechanical and the electrical's in. Plumbing is done. So
Oh, good. You're rocking and rolling. You're almost ready.
almost ready.
You get to
Terrifying. Oh, fun. Oh, I love that. Look at that comment. That's exciting. I'm praying for snow. We just booked a few days in Big Bear, and I am really hoping that we get some snow.
When are you going?
The week after Valentine's Day, so the 15th. We're gonna head up there. We'll see.
Nothing, but could be after that.
Yeah, the East Coast is blanketed right now, so we're praying for some of that.
Yeah, we're trying to get up to June Mountain here at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Snowboarding. My old stomping ground.
Okay. Oh, really? Cool.
It's been too long.
All right, everyone. We got us over on Facebook. There's always that moment that because early on in this, Facebook wouldn't like connect, and then we'd have these weird lags. And even though this is show 40 something or another, I'm always like, oh, I hope it connects. So looks like we have a few people in the chat already saying hello. Steve and Martha Hewitt, thank you for joining us again. From Columbus, Ohio, where snow is falling, huh? Yeah, that's what we hear. So, and good on you. You got your vaccine, and you're drinking some Alta Colina. All right, right on. And then we've got is that Dave? Hello, yep, from San Diego. Oh, you're coming up to Paso next weekend. Right on for Valentine's Day and anniversary. We'll be talking a little bit about Valentine's Day today. With our guests and restaurateurs here, so we'll talk about food pairings and things like that. So just waiting to make sure that Facebook catches up to us, and then we'll go live here. So sorry to interrupt conversation, but Maggie, you said you're building out a new space. I didn't know that. We'd love to talk about that when we get into a few things. So that's cool. Good for you. Cheers, everyone. We'll get started here in a second.
Cheers.
Awesome. Coming to visit. Excellent. Mark, very cool. Well, after watching a bunch of these shows, you probably have a little list of places that you all want to visit when you come up. So hopefully they'll see you. They'll see your smiling faces. Tell them Chris sent you, right? All righty, let's get going. So, hey everyone, Chris Toronto from the Paso Robles Wine Country Alliance, and thank you for joining us again for another Paso Wine Hour. Today's show is actually, we don't have any winemakers, we don't have any wineries, we have restaurateurs from Paso. We're going to be talking about the downtown Paso dining scene and how it's been faring. We're back open, granted with limited seating and only outdoors, and so we'll talk a little bit about that. But we're also wanting to talk a little bit about their backgrounds, what got them into food, what got them to decide to take the giant leap into being opening a restaurant, right? But then also a little bit about food pairing, maybe stuff that you can do at home for some of you that are far away. Maybe some of you who are locals might want to take them up on something that they're doing special for, whether it be Super Bowl or Valentine's Day, because both things are coming up here pretty soon. So I'd like to introduce our guests today. I'm going to start with Debbie Thomas with Thomas Hill Organics. Debbie, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for meeting us.
So Debbie is with Thomas Hill Organics, of course, one of the restaurants in downtown, and owner and operator for how long now, Debbie?
12 years.
12 years. Excellent. Thank you. Maggie Cameron with The Hatch Rotisserie and Bar. Hey, Maggie.
Thanks for having me.
Right on. And Jeffrey Weisinger with Jeffrey's Wine Country Barbecue. Hey, Jeff.
Hey guys. Hey Chris. Good to see you ladies. Good to be on here.
Right on. Very cool. Well, let's get into a little bit about maybe what inspired you to get into restaurant business here in Paso, because Debbie, you started, like you said, 12 years ago. And I've been in this position now for 14 years. And I can remember back then, downtown was still kind of figuring itself out as far as the restaurant scene. But I think taking the leap into opening a restaurant in downtown 12 years ago was a bit of a leap of faith, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 2009, right in the middle of the recession. So it was crazy, but I was like, oh, I can only go up, can't go down. But we had a farm at that time and 10 acres, and it was an organic farm. And I worked for Adidas, and my biggest accounts closed. So they told me I was going to have to move. And I loved Paso, and I was like, well, what are we going to do? I don't want to move. We've got this 10-acre organic farm. I love good food. I love good wine, and no one else is really doing organic. And that's how I love to eat. So honestly, Chris, I had 2 weeks to make a decision, and that's what I did.
Wow. And it was CSA at first, right? That kind of setup.
Yeah, we had a CSA before that. And that was at the very beginning. That was when I was still working for Adidas. We had a CSA program. And then when we opened the restaurant, we continued the CSA program. People could actually come to the restaurant and pick up their products. So, yeah.
Yeah. I remember I actually did that myself. I think I signed up for that for a little bit of time. And you did too?
Yeah.
And your place has expanded over time, because it was just that little space, and then you kind of moved next door, and then patio, and
then it started out with this little space that had indoor dining, it had the kitchen, it had the restroom, it had everything in it, and it just expanded over time. So yeah.
Wow. That's cool. And it's been a bit of a mainstay, I would say, as part of the downtown dining scene in Paso, because along with you, and at the time, Via Creek was still open, you had Bistro Laurent, and a few other restaurants.
And Artisan was still open then. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So that was phase one of this renaissance of restaurants. You said you had the farm and you were leaving Adidas, and did you realize what you were getting into when you?
Absolutely not, Chris. Absolutely not. Honestly, I think if I would have had a few more weeks, my friends would have talked me out of it. But I was like, how hard could it be? I can do this, But I think Maggie and Jeff can attest to the fact that it's really hard to have a restaurant. It's not easy. So, there's so many rewarding things about it. But yeah, they could have talked me out of it, and I don't know what I'd be. Well, I'd probably be up at Adidas office right now. So, yeah, and I wouldn't Paso, and I just love it here. So.
I like that you're pronouncing it Adidas and not the whole Adidas thing.
Adidas. Well, that's the German way. Adidas. Yes.
Hey, Maggie, you were in the wine industry. I think when we met, you were working out at Justin. What made you decide restaurant? What inspired you to decide that this is what we're going to do in downtown? And how long ago was it, too, that you opened?
So we opened the Hatch coming up on 6 years ago, about 5.5 years ago. And prior to that, you're right, I was at Justin Winery for 7 years or so. I moved to Paso from the East Coast. I'm a restaurant kid. This is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. And I studied hospitality in college back east, and then came to Paso Robles for a wine tasting trip right after I graduated. And I spent a week here. I loved it. I mean, it was like July. It was hotter than you know what, and you know what Paso is like in July. And this was, 2005, so 1.5 million years ago. So it was different back then, but I loved it so much. And then I moved to Boston. I worked for a big restaurant company there, moved out here just to get into wine. Like I just thought about Paso for 2 years and I was like, let's do it. So I moved out here 2007. Luckily, Justin hired me. And yeah, I was in the tasting room, just pouring wine for people, referring people to Thomas Hill Organics for dinner.
Thank you, Maggie.
An Artisan, if you create, like those were the big restaurants. And I always kind of knew that that's where I wanted to end up. But it was a fun time at Justin. I learned so much. And then my husband and I got the opportunity to open the Hatch, and we had always talked about it, but we didn't have anything on paper. So when we had, there he is behind me, when we got that opportunity, we took it and we cobbled together a business plan and opened up in June of 2015.
Nice. And why, talk about the food style a little bit. And Debbie, we'll probably get back around to you to talk a little bit about the food style there, but you went with this kind of Southern comforty, shared platey food thing, right?
Yeah, we didn't mean to make it Southern, although we drew a lot of influence from Southern food and great Southern restaurants, but it's comfort food. We wanted comfort food. We wanted easy. It's the Hatch because down the hatch, like great food, great wine, great cocktails down the hatch, just easy, delicious food that's recognizable and craveable. So we went with this like comfort food theme. We wanted it to be, the first thing that we knew we needed was this wood-fired rotisserie that's like 10,000 pounds and came from Texas, I think. It was fabricated there. And they sent it. It was like the biggest purchase of my life at that point, and we bought it before we could, do anything else in this space. But it's a wood-fired rotisserie, so almost everything on our menu cooks on that thing, whether it's on the rotisserie, like over the fire, or there's a little grate in front of it, so it's cooking on top of the red oak fire, which lends this like wonderful smoky, kind of rustic feel to all of our food that I love.
That's awesome. Yeah. Love eating there. And today, when we get into the food portion of it all, Maggie is going to be talking a little bit about pairing a fried chicken with something kind of fun. And that fried chicken that they do there is the bomb.
Which is hilarious because that's the one thing I'm talking about. It's the one thing we don't cook on our rotisserie.
Right. Yeah. And there's already a comment too in the chat about fried chicken night too.
I love that.
Jeffrey, when I met you, you were like the catering chef to have for winery events. You'd show up and you'd have this giant paella thing, and you'd go to that annual paella event that they would have in Templeton, and I think you would like win practically every year or something. But you would show up with that thing at some wineries, and you would just throw down some amazing food. And then you decided to actually build a roof over your head and do it as a restaurant. Why?
Crazy. What the hell was I thinking?
You should have asked me, Jeff.
No, right? Yeah, it's been a long, strange trip, as we say. But I moved to Paso in 2007 to start a personal chef and catering business. I was living in Mammoth Lakes, and my father had moved here in 2005. So I spent a lot of time between 2005 and 2007 coming to Paso, checking out the Zin Fest and Wine Festival weekend, and really just kind of fell in love. I was really proud of my pops for kind of pursuing his passion to move to wine country. So in 2007, we had a bad ski season in Mammoth, and I got laid off from the restaurant. And rather than going back to the mountain communities that I had come from, I decided to come see what the old man's got going on in Paso. And it was at that point where I created Jeffry's Catering, named for my dad and I, and we spell our name a little bit different, just one E. All the marketing agencies think I'm spelling it wrong, but that's just the one E. And we started the personal chef business, and then it evolved into a catering business. And then an opportunity came about to take the catering business and move it into a commercial kitchen out of my buddy Joe Barton's place at Grey Wolf Cellars. So it's been a fun, gradual process of doing in-home events and then doing winery events and working out of winery kitchens throughout town. And then getting into a kitchen at Grey Wolf, and that's where we kind of started doing the quasi-restaurant kind of scene. We were kind of operating like a food truck, but we were a stationary kitchen, and I was doing all the catering events for Grey Wolf and then lots of other wineries in town. And then it was a client of mine. A lot of folks might know Robert Gelson. Debbie and I have a relationship with Robert. He owns the Hotel Cheval, and it was I did a lot of consulting and events for him, and it was his idea to he let me know that he wanted to build something cool in the alley. So I decided to check it out. Let's see what you got going on here. And the first drawings he showed me were amazing. He had built more or less the Thomas Hill Organics location. He built Hotel Cheval, and his architectural drawings were extravagant. And at that time, I was not trying to open a fine dining restaurant, let alone any kind of restaurant. I had low overhead and loved working with all the different wineries. So I actually turned him down. I'm like, you'll find somebody. But then a few months later, he came back to me with new drawings, and the new drawings had the open air courtyard, and it had our roll up doors. And it was at that point where, the restaurant, the idea of opening a restaurant really set in. It wasn't something I was necessarily striving to do, but when an opportunity is put in front of you, and it was kind of a go all in. And luckily, my amazing wife, who's taking care of our corgis right now, but she'll be back. But luckily, with her support, and she didn't come from this business at all. She's an esthetician, but kind of like Maggie, this has been my career since I was 15 years old. I went to college on the East Coast and have a degree in culinary arts and restaurant and food service management. And being in the industry, I don't know what else I would be doing outside of this. So when an opportunity came about to get a brick and mortar restaurant and get this thing going and off the ground, we decided to go for it. And we're the babies in compared to the other two ladies here. I mean, it's only 2.5 years. So we opened up in June of 2018, Father's Day weekend, June 2018. And luckily, with all the support, fortunately, I should say, with all the support we've had from the wine community and the Paso community as a whole, I get really involved with the Chamber of Commerce and just businesses, charity events. They've really embraced us, and I'm really grateful for it because, as the girls know, it was a tough business.
Yeah. Why did you go barbecue? Because you're the first in town. I mean, you can get barbecue here and there or whatever. It might be on a menu someplace, but that's your focus. What made you go that direction?
Yeah, I think it was a need. It was a need in the community that I saw, and my background is Mediterranean cooking. From paella being a signature dish, and being classically trained, and coming from the environment of food and wine pairings. One of my favorite things in the world is pairing great wine, great food. The tagline of Jeffry's Catering was globally influenced wine country cuisine, and we evolved that to globally influenced wine country barbecue. And I think it was really just a bunch of things came together. The venue was lent itself for us to bring in our Traegers. Now, doing barbecue, really, it's kind of funny, but I walked into the Costco in San Luis Obispo like 10 years ago, and there were these sales guys selling these Traeger smokers, and I figured I was already doing wine country cuisine at the wineries, and you could put a tri-tip on a Traeger. This thing looks pretty cool. So one thing led to another, and we went from 1 Traeger to 2 to now we have 6. And it was really an idea of, we don't have a real authentic, if you will, barbecue restaurant. And my style was to bring a little bit of flavors from around the world, but I'm very passionate about American regional cuisine. So I take little bits and pieces from the different barbecue regions and the culinary traditions around America. And we use our Traeger smokers and some classical French technique to create what I like to think is a really unique style of barbecue. All of our meats are smoked on the smoker. It's a casual atmosphere. And that's kind of what Paso is all about. Really good food, really great wines, and a nice casual, kind of atmosphere whenever possible.
Yeah, absolutely. You pretty much nailed it on the head there. I want to get back over to Debbie because I'm going to pull up our PowerPoint, our shareable screen here. All three have given us a few images and the like to share on what their space looks like and stuff like that. And so I'd love to share a little bit of that. And I have a few questions about that as well, because all three properties are so incredibly different from one another. And it's really neat that we can have such diversity of spaces here in our little town of Paso. And then, hey, Jeff, would you do me a favor and maybe mute yourself while you're not talking? Because there's a little bit of background noise. Thanks, man. All right, so I'm gonna do that real quick here, and we'll kind of keep going. I'll also give you a little bit of like where they are in Paso type of thing. So give me just a second here. So, well, there's Paso. But here is a map of Paso Robles wine country, and all the little dots represent wineries or hotels, restaurants, other attractions and the like. And so if you see my cursor here, downtown, of course, is this little area here in the middle of the map. And then we do have a little kind of a focused map over in the corner there. But I decided to go and get a Google map real quick and snip and plug it in here. So you can see that Thomas Hill Organics is over here, 13th and Park Street. It doesn't say it, but that is Park Street right here. And so you walk in through Park, and then there's the patio and, you know, the back building there where I suspect, Debbie, you might be at or something in your office. And then you walk down to 13th and hang a left, and the Hatch is down there on the corner of Pine and 13th Street with the big brick building that you see there. And so we'll have a look inside there. And then if you could just walk down Pine Street down into the alleyway here, I think that's called Norma's Way. There's Jeffry's right in there. That's the access to your restaurant in this space here. So Debbie, this is your alternate patio, isn't it?
We're fortunate to have Keller Williams right behind us, and they have let us use their patio for additional dining. Now, of course, we've got the tenting out there now for the winter, but this is a shot from, you know, one of the summer months. So, but it's been awesome to have, and we're so thankful that they've been so generous with that.
That's cool. And it used to be a restaurant at some point in time, right?
Yes, that space used to be a restaurant. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the patio kind of came together really nicely for you.
Yes.
And then here is the patio space at THO.
At THO, yeah, we have a beautiful fireplace, and that's our indoor dining room. And so you can get a shot of our fountain. And who would have known that a patio would be so popular right now, right?
And I was going to say, you are lucky to have that going for you, having that outdoor space.
Yes.
What's interesting is that the patio didn't start off covered. It did evolve over time, didn't it, for you?
Yes. No, it started out, yeah, there was no covering. And I went through my first winter, and I basically told the landlord, if you don't cover this, I'm out of here. Because as we know, November, December, January, February, and March are typically cold, and sometimes we have rain, sometimes we don't. But yeah, I had to have the covering. There's no way I could have survived.
Yeah, And it's great too, because although you do have some indoor space, and we kind of scan by the James room there, so you can look right into that door there. You can see the James room, then those doors down the way there are the kitchen. What you're not seeing is kind of behind the camera is your kind of wine bar space as well. That is also an indoor space.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool, and you can actually dine in there when you can dine indoors anyway.
Yeah.
There as well, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this patio, our regular patio is covered. We have gas heaters, we have propane heaters out there. We haven't pulled down all the sides because we want to have it remain open, but it's very warm. It's beautiful at night. We have the fireplace going. So it's been a lifesaver.
Yeah, I bet.
When we're open.
So yeah, right. We're going to talk a little bit about that too here in just a little bit about COVID and how it's affected all three of these people. What I love about the James room is when we can host people, and I do about 3 different media tours a year. I also host a lot of trade in town where we can have a little private space there to be able to do paired dinners and stuff. And you've always been so good about doing that. And your chef would always be so accommodating to pair things up kind of nicely for us. And we'll talk a little bit about pairing here in just a second. Maggie, your space is just hip and cool, and this neat, almost very it's almost like you're not in Paso, but yet you are in Paso in a sense, what gave you the inspiration to design the indoor space the way it is designed? And talk a little bit about these photos as we go through them.
Giving me way more credit than I am due. We put those light fixtures together after a trip to Lowe's to buy some pipe and a bottle of spray paint. I mean, we had no budget to open this place. So luckily we were blessed with this beautiful brick wall, which is the original brick. This building is from 1888, I believe. And so we're lucky to have, I think, the only indoor brick wall. It's the building subdivided into a few spaces. So we just filled it. I mean, we had a designer just because he was a buddy and believed in us. But we wanted it to be, just kind of like the food and beverage vibe. We just wanted it to be inviting, relaxing, and comfortable. So we knew that we wanted to get, oh God, I remember those days. So fun.
Right,
so fun.
Me too.
I'm sorry for the background noise. We are a working restaurant getting ready to open, but I had to have the sign behind me because it's so iconic. And the funny story about this sign is that we have a neighbor who's a metal worker, and he had access to some printing machine that he could, put in a file and it would shoot out this metal sign. He was like, hey, do you want to try this out in the restaurant? So we were like, hey, yeah, here's the hatch, how it looks in our logo. Let's put it up on the wall. When we talked about it, I think we decided that it was going to be 3 or 4 feet across. It was going to be this little thing just kind of offset on the side of the bank fence. And then it was printed and it's this monstrosity on the wall that we fell in love with. We love it so much. I'm doing this here. There could be quieter spaces for me to do a meeting like this, but I just love the hatch sign because it's just like this is our joint. It's metal, it's rough, but it's it feels like home now. So anyway, where were we? I forget. I got here.
We were talking about the space and all, and we need to talk about this bar because you do have one of the coolest bars in town with some of the best cocktails that you can come by.
So we took over this space, and it was built out as a restaurant, which is why it was so attractive to us. We didn't have to do much, just cosmetic stuff. And the bar was one long L. And we used to hang out in there all the time. We just loved it. It was just this fun joint. It was called Burnix back in the day, and they had like
Oh,
great
yeah.
cocktails, and hung out there late night eating waffle fries and blue cheese. It was just like a mess. Like every time there, it's just a mess, but it was so much fun. So it was this like long L-shaped bar, and one of the biggest cosmetic things that we did when we moved in is we separated it into two chunks that are kind of like V-shaped or L-shaped, so that there's more corners. There's like 3 or 4 corners to our bar so that people can gather around, because we wanted this again to be a place where people could gather and chat and meet people and meet up with people. So the bar, you know, in the good old days, was this wonderful, vibrant spot for people to just kind of hang out, and you can go solo, you can go with a group, whatever it was. But our cocktails are much like our food. Like, we are very seasonal in our approach, yet recognizable. So our bar manager, Robin Wolf, is this like amazing tastemaker who creates our seasonal cocktail list, and you know, kind of uses, I mean, not only just fresh produce, but things that the kitchen is using at the same time. So she'll pull it, you know, chef will make a batch of some kind of pickled onions, pickled vegetables, whatever it is. She'll incorporate it in a cocktail special or a cocktail that's going to run on the list. Eric and I grow a lot of herbs at our house over on the east side of Paso. We bring in those daily to put behind the bar. So Robin has a lot of tools to work with, but she comes up with ideas that I mean, thank God for Robin.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always say that if it weren't for Robin, everyone would be drinking vodka sodas. So
We're going to get into this in just a second. I want to jump over to Jeff, if I could. Jeff, you've got this iconic neon light that's outside of your place. It's incredibly inviting, and this looks like maybe this was a Christmas time picture or something, but it's incredibly inviting. But it really lights up the alley, because you guys, everybody watching, and if you're not familiar, if you're not in Paso often, Norma's Way, the alley Norma's Way, I mean, it's an alley. It's like legit, like there's trash cans and trucks and delivery things and potholes and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, it's an alley. and you made it nice.
We're hidden away, and it was a big risky undertaking. There it is. That's one of my favorite photos. Our friend Julie Hammer from upstairs at the warehouse salon took that. She got to watch this whole process take place. But to go from just a rickety, nasty old alley into what we've been able to turn it into we're really pleased. We're really pleased with how it turned out, and it is still very much hidden. That's kind of where the sign came from. You know, we don't have the luxury of getting a great deal of street traffic, so we have a little bit of a speakeasy kind of vibe. You have to be in the know to a certain degree to find us. But we get a lot of.
I love sending people over your way when they're looking for like something faster than we can offer or something, and I'm like, see that shady alley over there? Yeah. Go through there, you'll be so pumped.
Past the dumpster on the right, past the dumpster on the left, you know, and then you walk into the oasis that we kind of created with the original. So the brick was made to mimic the 819 12th Street that's in front of us, and our contracting crew did a really good job. I was fortunate to be able to get into the project when it was in its kind of completion. But once the fire pit there, that's a really big focal point. And kind of going off what Debbie was saying, yeah, it is a difficult venture having a restaurant that is only outdoor seating. Now pre-COVID, we had. I'm in the bar area right now, and we had about 8 or 12 seats in the bar, but it's a kind of a narrow area. So we opened a restaurant with virtually exclusively outdoor dining, and then unbelievable that a year goes by and now we're only allowed to do outdoor. I don't know how the heck that happened. That's pretty amazing, but it's been working out for us. We're really pleased with the spot.
And the spot that he's in too, if you're looking at that top picture and you go straight back, you see that those white trucks parked out there on the street. The hatch is just to the right. So just as Maggie was saying, go down that shady alley. Well, they're literally looking down that shady alley. So and actually, and Debbie, for a short while, the alley was the only way to get to your restaurant, wasn't that right?
Yeah, when we first opened, yeah, we just had an alley entrance. And honestly, Chris, it was very challenging because back then, Paso kind of closed down at about 8 o'clock at night. Actually, honestly, it closed down earlier. No one could find us because we were in an alley and the streets there was nothing open, especially I'm a whole block off the park, as is the Hatch and Jeffries, really. But yeah, that was, although people loved it, they loved to come in through the alley entrance. It was definitely a challenge.
Yeah. So before we get into a little bit of what we're drinking and what it goes with, because each of these restaurateurs have something that they're sipping on, if you've been watching, but they also have a dish that they want to talk a little bit about what it can pair with and potentially how either you can get it from them, of course, right? Or you can potentially do something at home that can kind of mimic it and pair it with your favorite Paso wine. But before we do that, I want to talk a little bit about that kind of elephant in the room, about how are you doing? Like, how, you had to be closed all. Debbie, you had mentioned earlier that you were closed the whole month of January.
Yeah, whole month of January.
And I mean, this is unprecedented. Obviously, this is one of those words that has been overused a little bit during this time. But I'd like to hear from you all as to how are you doing, and how have you gotten through this? We're not done yet, but how have you gotten through this? Maggie's like, by drinking.
Yeah, here, pour me another glass. Chris, I could probably speak to that just a little bit. Um, Obviously, we closed, the first time we closed was March 16th. I remember it. And we didn't open till the end of May. But we were fortunate, and I'm sure Jeff and Maggie were fortunate that once we opened up again, Paso was rocking. I mean, we had a great July, August, September, October. And then, of course, the bottom fell out when we had to close again. And we had to, the COVID numbers went up and we went into the, I don't know, black tier, whatever tier we went into. Um, so, December is always a challenging month, except for that right before Christmas and that week between Christmas and New Year's. And then January typically for us is a slow month anyway. So we closed in January. I was like, well, if we're going to close and we're going to try to regroup and let these numbers come down, let's just close the month of January. And that's why we actually closed the whole month instead of trying to stay open. And we're very tourist driven, and with tourists not traveling, it's really difficult for us to make money. So
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that the three of you have actually still been able to operate, though, I find wonderful. And what I mean, myself and so many others in the industry, we rallied around going and doing the takeout thing as quickly as we could when that was the first option. Maggie, you guys were doing the takeout thing quite quickly, actually. How did that work out for you guys?
Yeah, I'll never forget March 16th either. I remember it because it was, St. Patrick's Day, where the state or the county just shut everything down because they didn't want alcohol sales. They didn't want people, gathering. And so over that time, those couple of days when we couldn't have any alcohol sales, we just sold, and we didn't offer takeout before. Our food was not, it was not meant for that. It didn't travel well. We had daily specials. We kind of had, we did things on the assumption that we were going to sell a high volume. We were busy. We had the luxury of being busy all the time. So over that holiday, St. Patrick's Day holiday, we just started doing the whole menu, having the whole menu available for takeout for a couple of days. And then we got together and we streamlined it. We were like, what is going to work best? What's going to travel the best? What can we package for takeout? And because this is how my brain works, like I need something memorable. So we morphed into this comfort food and cocktails takeout program. So we had this very streamlined food menu. We had, we jumped right on the bottled cocktail to go train when that became available. And we wanted people to be able to remember what we were doing. So it's not just the hatch. It's not, don't think about our whole menu because a lot of that isn't going to be available. We didn't even want to use that wood-fired rotisserie because it was too expensive to bring in firewood at that point. We were trying to conserve at every, possible point we could. But it actually went pretty well. Like it was, nobody was making any money, but it was definitely like keeping the doors open. So we were able to offer comfort food and cocktails for that, it was like 2 months until we could open up for outdoor dining again. And it was fine. I know other people, like Jeff is like made for this, right? Like his food was ready to roll. So that was really lucky. So we kind of took cues from people that we saw, like him doing a great job, and like, how is his stuff packaged? What makes that better than our food for traveling? And so we were able to kind of, thank goodness that, because as Debbie said, there were no tourists, so there's no tourist business at that point. So luckily our locals made it possible for us to keep going and kind of learn from these other establishments, and it kind of refined what we were doing during that period.
And that's tough too, because I know like sometimes you go out and you have a wonderful experience somewhere. You might be able to take, let's just say, your leftovers home, but if you ask the restaurant, oh, can I order something to go? The restaurant just simply doesn't offer it. And that has everything to do because, you want your food to show well. It's kind of like a winery, but their label on a wine that they've made that they don't want their name attached to. And so much of that exists. And so you really have to take a lot of time and effort to almost recreate what it is that you've already, in a sense, perfected.
So we looked at things like, somebody mentioned they in chat that they come on fried chicken night. Fried chicken used to be our Monday night special. We were like, hey, that's such a kind of sticky thing. People think about us on Monday nights for the fried chicken. Let's open it up. Let's do that every single night. What would it take to do that every single night? So in slimming down the rest of the menu, because rotisserie chicken, that's kind of what we, stuck our cap on. Like that's our thing. But rotisserie chicken is finicky. Whatever you make that day is only good for that day. And so you sell out every night or you lose the product. So fried chicken, it takes a long time to make. It's a more involved process, but like it's something that travels well. If you don't fry it right away, it's great the next day, just like it's meant for that. So we had to look at those items on our menu that we could kind of really lean into.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the meantime too, with family, with you and with Eric, having to woo.
Woo! That's right. Yeah, we have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So we were bouncing back. Luckily it's the two of us. And I talked to Debbie about this a lot because we are so lucky that we have each other. Eric and I have each other to go back and forth with, to gut check ideas and lean on in terms of childcare. But during that time when they weren't in preschool, we were just like, we tried to separate them sometimes, and I would bring my daughter in here and get work done and set up a little cot for her in the front. But yeah, it was across America, you saw people doing that, and it was no different here.
Absolutely. I don't want to dwell too long on the COVID part, because I do want to get to the wine and the food part and having these guys share a little. Jeff, I don't know if you wanted to jump in with a little something on how things have been going, but then we're going to jump over to food and wine.
Yeah, I'm always always happy to talk about food and wine. But I want to talk a little bit about the survival instinct that a lot of restaurant owners kind of it's innate. And if you're going to get into this business, and as a lot of people may know, it's one of the toughest businesses in all of industry. It's more than just food and wine and what's the atmosphere and what's the vibe. And when the infamous March 16th and that weekend of St. Patrick's Day came and we couldn't do what we had been doing, it became get into survival mode. And we got really active on social media, me specifically. Now my wife rocks our Instagram and I'm very, very proud of her for that. And but I've never been, although there's a big sign with my name on it, it was a brand that we created. And so I got into the habit of doing these Facebook videos and kind of promoting, engaging people. I sensed that there was a lot of fear and a lot of people were scared. There's a lot of depression going along. There's a lot of people with unanswered questions, and it's not my style to fall into that. So by getting on videos and engaging our community and our customer base and trying to keep everything as positive as we possibly can, we never shut down. We stayed open throughout the entire time. We did make an adjustment. We used to be open 6 days a week, and starting that March, we started closing 2 days a week. And honestly, for us, it was one of the best things that could have happened to us. We were burning ourselves out within our first year of working too much. We're open 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a chef-driven, scratch-made operation, so we are constantly in here making the food, making the preparations. And COVID did allow a little bit of a slowdown for us to kind of reassess, but we did it on the fly. And I think a lot of us, if it wasn't for some of the government aid that we were able to get, which really helped a lot of businesses, keep going. And we kept it going with the paella, as we can see here. I got some of that as well, but we kept doing the paella videos. We kept talking about how we're smoking the meats, and I would do some butchering. Pairing some of this great food with some great wines is what it's all about for me, for us.
Yeah, and keep talking here, because we're gonna talk about the first kind of pairing. We've got Super Bowl weekend coming up, and asking all three of my friends here to talk a little bit about a pairing and something maybe you can either get from them, or maybe you can do it at home for some of our friends who are far away and watching this. Jeff wanted to talk about Super Bowl, and he wanted to talk about pairing wings with something, and maybe even sharing a little bit about how to make some really good wings at home.
Definitely, and I love that picture of wings. I got another tray, cool. Fresh tray of wings that we just did. But this is one of our new menu items. It's kind of a special, but we brine our wings, and then we smoke them on the smoker, and then we drop them in the fryer at the last minute to get this really crispy coating. And they have a flavor profile like no other wings that you've ever had. The seasonings that we put into our brine really permeate the meat. They fall off the bone wings with a little bit of the crispy coating, and we can toss it in here, the traditional buffalo sauce, or we also toss it with our barbecue sauce. And one of my favorite pairings with wings is rosé. So I brought, this is a new wine that we're going to be featuring here, the Weisinger 2019 rosé, local rosé. It's got this great little bit of minerality. The fruit is still there. It's very light, but it's a beautiful wine that kind of helps with the acid of this wine. It kind of helps strip your palate once you get this the little bit of heat and the little bit of the fattiness that you can get in chicken wings. It's a great pairing. The other one, the paella. This has become a signature dish that pairs really. The best thing about paella is that it pairs with anything from Pinot to rosé to this fantastic Petit Verdot. There's a Petit Verdot made by my buddy Curtis over at Shale Oak Winery. We have it just like the Hatch. We have a tap wine program. So I don't care if it's a premium wine by the glass out of a bottle, or if it's a premium red. We're two-fisting over here on this beautiful.
What's your secret on pairing though? And because I look at wings and I think, whoo, that's hot. Like,
Yeah.
and spicy food typically, can be challenging to pair.
So I like cold and crisp and refreshing. I think is the go-to with any kind of hot food, and it doesn't have to be sweet. This is definitely not a sweet wine. We don't really feature a great deal of sweet wines, but as long as the temperature is right and it's nice and cold and it's acid driven, that really kind of as great as this Petit Verdot is, it needs something a little bit more round. Whereas, like you say, the wings can be a little bit hot. But if you get yourself a nice cold glass of white or rosé, or even a cold beer, and something that can really not compete with the flavors that are going on in your palate when it comes to wings, you dip it in a little blue cheese or maybe a little ranch. But when you have something like this, I don't think you need it. The heat will hit your palate, and then the cold, crisp, acid-driven white or rosé will just kind of keep you coming back for the next one.
So quick for people at home that are not that can't come in and buy some of your wings. What's the secret to making a really good wing?
I think the secret to making any kind of good chicken product is in the brine, if you can. Especially anything that's on the bone. So one of our secrets with these wings here is to put them in a flavorful salt, sugar-based brine. We've used peppercorn, a little bit of sage, rosemary, garlic. I mean, it's kind of whatever you have on your spice rack and whatever you like. Throw that in. We bring some water up to a boil to help the salt and the sugar and the flavors kind of evaporate mix into the water, and then we chill it, and then we let the wings sit in the brine for a day, and then wash the brine off, throw them on the smoker until they're tender enough to eat, and then we drop them in the fryer real quick just to kind of get that crispiness. So we're taking wings to another level, and it pays. And when I'm not eating
oil?
Wings, always canola. And when we're not eating wings and paella, we're eating ribs. So we got some. I was hungry, and we had this. We're gonna have a little staff meal later on, but these are the ribs that we do, and they pair really great with this wine.
Awesome, thanks, Jeff.
Little things that we can do. Super Bowl, Valentine's Day is a week later, and we're always stoked for Valentine's Day, and these ladies can definitely speak on that. But the environment and the vibe that we have here is just, again, really good food, a lot of fun, eating with your hands, hanging out, listening to some really good music that we always have good music playing. We're not a sports bar by any means. I just got the 2 TVs, but we bust out some wings and some ribs and pulled pork and mac and cheese and all these classic kind of like Maggie was talking about, good comfort food with a chef-driven twist. Pair it with whatever you like in your glass, and the wine program that we bring in is really designed to pair with all of our food.
Yeah. Now I believe you're a Chicago sports fan, but who do you got this weekend?
I'm a Chicago Bears fan. It is frustrating, and I got to tell you, I went to college in Rhode Island. I became tolerant of the Patriots during that time, and being 44. Being a 44-year-old guy and seeing Tom Brady being 43 years old, I'm pulling for him. But at the same point, you got the kid, you got the young quarterback who's could go back to back. So you know what I'm rooting for? I'm rooting for a really good game, lots of really good food, and a good times, man.
Awesome,
yeah.
Awesome. Debbie,
Yes.
I think you're having a Sauv Blanc over there. What did you put that with?
Yeah, actually, I put it with a saffron fettuccine. I don't know if you could see this here.
Dang.
This is a dish that we're offering on our Valentine's menu. And I'll give you just a quick rundown of how you can do it at home. First off, we make our own fettuccine, our own saffron fettuccine, but you can buy it. In fact, you can buy it online. And what you'll do is as you're cooking your pasta, you're going to take a saucepan and you're going to saute guanciale. And that's it's a pork. It's like Italian pork. So you're gonna saute that until the fat is rendered, and then you're gonna put in some sliced thin garlic, a little bit of chili flake to taste, and some fennel seeds. And you're going to mix that all together. But what you want to do before the garlic gets too crispy is you want to put rapini in. So this has the rapini and the pork in it. I love rapini. I could just like put it all over my body, but that's another story. Anyway, so you add rapini to the pan, okay? And then you're going to take a lemon and you're going to squeeze the lemon on top to taste, okay? And then after that, you're going to toss it. And then you want to add a little bit of olive oil. So at this point, the pasta should be ready. So you drain the pasta, don't put the water in with the baby, okay? You drain the pasta, you take the pasta, you put it in the saute pan with the rapini and the pork, right? You toss it all together, put it in a bowl, and then you serve it with little pecorino romano. We also make breadcrumbs that we put on top. So that's the easy version. And I paired it with a Sauvignon Blanc. I actually did a Dow Sauvignon Blanc. Okay, this cuts into the bitterness of the rapini, which is always very strong. So that's why I went that route. And then I don't want to talk any longer. I know we only have 4 minutes left. So
That's
I'm
okay.
Maggie. But Valentine's dinner, 4 courses, wonderful. We have a new chef. He's amazing. Farm to table, love it. Thank you.
Boom, just drop that mic.
Boom. That's it. Boom.
Love it.
I'm so hungry now.
Yeah. Well, I've been
I
sitting looking at this dish for an
wings
hour now. I want to eat
And
it.
saffron linguine. That's what I want. Both of them together. And ribs.
Yeah. Maggie, your pairing is the best pairing ever in when it comes to the history of pairings, because it's so like out there in a sense, but it's so solid. And fried chicken and bubbles. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that French fries and champagne should be its own separate food group. I wish I invented that. But I think it's getting to the point. I mean, it might blow some minds, but it's definitely like tried and true. And so I took this opportunity to kind of talk about our fried chicken, and we carry a local Rava sparkling wine. This is the Rava Brut. And our wine program at the Hatch, I think this is one of like maybe 5 wines that we carry by the bottle. As Jeff brought up earlier, we have a keg program. So we have all wines on tap. And I love that program so much. And I love talking about that program because there are so many, I mean, it's getting better, but definitely some misconceptions about keg wine. Even maybe we just need to market it better, think of a different name.
There's a lot of great keg wines out there, right?
Keg wine, yeah, yes.
Yeah.
They're so great. But, we like working with our smaller local wineries to produce things that are maybe a little special, or that, they don't sell outside the winery or something like that, that we can have on our list. And they produce maybe, they'll keg 12 kegs for us, and we'll put it on tap and offer it for a limited time. And it's just this really wonderful Paso Robles thing, where we can we have a very short list. I mean, less than a dozen selections of wine at any time, usually more like 8 to 10. And we can tell stories about each one of those wineries, and how did they come up with that wine for us, or where are they? Just point people to their tasting room. So it's this great like kind of back and forth relationship that we have with the wineries that we feature. They're sending people to us, we're sending people to them, and it's this really fun thing. So anyway, so Rava, I mean, this is an easy sell, right? Because we haven't really had a lot of local, but I mean, there are sparkling wine options in Paso Robles, but Rava really came in and leaned into that. They do have other wines on their list, of course, but their property is lovely, and they make this great sparkling. So anyway, my favorite thing, and I'm so pissed that you guys have food examples to show you, because now I just want fried chicken, and I don't know why my chef has not made me fried chicken. I'm looking at him right now, giving him a dirty look. But anyway, we had this great conversation about why this works so well. Because I want our executive chef is Corey Bidwell, a super talented guy, and he put this on our menu. And I have to show you guys this email. I sent him an email. I was like, hey, I'm doing this Zoom meeting with the PRWTA. Like, what's your favorite thing about sparkling wine and fried chicken? Like, what do you love about this? I am not kidding. Maybe you can't see this here, but like this email that he wrote goes like literally on and on and on. And in terms of, I mean, he was just so effusive about why this works. And like, you know, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Jeff touched on a lot of this. Like, you've got to start with this wonderful brine, and then you have this like crunchy coating. So it's not only flavors, but it's textures. And I think, you know, the fat and acid combo is wonderful here, but also like the crispy, crunchy, kind of fatty chicken, plus the bubbles, you know, the texture in the wine as well. You know, it's not just acid, but it's the bubbles that just
that
kind of
effervescence that you get from the bubbles with that crispiness that pops in your
it's
fried chicken.
so
It's
good.
to me. Doesn't
So
get much
good.
better.
No.
I know. It's delicious.
Yeah.
So anyway, we pair it with this, with the fried chicken, we serve this potato salad with our house, like big chunks of our house smoked bacon. And so then you've got that like creamy and salty, and kind of the Rava Brut isn't like, I mean, it does have a tiny bit of sweetness. So it does play super well with that like smoky, salty thing that's going on in a potato salad. So it's just this wonderful thing. And I would love to share, Chris, if you have like a suggestion on how to do this. Corey's email back to me, chef's email back to me, was so great. And he really went into, you don't want to replicate his process at home, but he gave us some really good options for making this in a home kitchen that I think our viewers would love to be able to read through. It's so long and it's so like well done. I think it would be fun to share with our watchers, listeners.
We'll figure out how to attach it either to the recording of the Facebook one or
like in the chat, maybe, whatever.
Or email me. You know,
okay.
You can find me and I can share it. You know.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I love the fried chicken and bubbles thing. I think whether it be a sparkling wine or actual champagne, it's all about texture, truly. I mean, flavor, yes, absolutely. It's going to come down to, you know, if it's a peppery one and crust, you know, how is that going to go with maybe something that's going to be a little bit more lean and more acidic than say something a little bit more that has a creamier mouthfeel, where that might actually go with a crust that's going to be a little bit more buttermilky and a little bit more soft, and if anything. So it's cool that you say that. I remember I was sitting for my WSET 2, and we did a lunch, or a broke for lunch, but it was champagne day, and I specifically ran over to McDonald's and got a big old thing of McDonald's French fries. And I swiped that bottle. I sat outside by myself, and I sat there and I sipped on a really good grower champagne with McDonald's French fries. And it was the best in the world, dude. Oh,
Can we all do that sometime? Can we meet in the park and do that?
Yes, I'll buy the champagne. Somebody buy the fries. Let's do it.
Jeffrey's got fries.
Yes.
Yeah.
Potato chips, French fries, fried chicken. Anytime you can get that
Love
crispy fried potato with the French bubbles. French bubbles will always take it to the next level at anything method champenois, and Rava does a method champenois. It's fantastic, tiny little bubbles, great little bit of salt and crisp. I'm over here sucking down on this amazing rib with this Petit Verdot, man.
You're
Jeff,
almost ready for your 420
those
post.
wings.
I got wings. That was my first course. But you know,
I might be by.
pretty soon.
Awesome, you guys.
thing.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being on the Paso Wine Hour today. I want to give you a quick little minute here to each of you say a little bit of what's going on, what's happening next. Debbie, we'll start with you because you have a Valentine's menu that pasta is going to be on, but what else?
Well, honestly, that's probably besides the fact that we have a new chef. His name is Matthew Roberts. He's truly farm to table. In fact, he lives at Windrose Farms right now, which, yeah. And, everything is a little simpler. Everything makes sense. I'm one of those believers that when you pick something from the ground and you eat it, it doesn't need a lot. Okay. All the flavors are there. So I'm really excited about that. He put a wonderful 4-course Valentine's menu together, and that's where I had the saffron fettuccine that I showed you. I'm just, really excited. That's really our big launch for him, and we're hoping we're almost booked. So that's gonna be like a crazy weekend. I hope it's not a big COVID weekend, but anyway. We do practice all the safety things that we need to, and we've got our tables distance, as I know everybody else does. So we're rocking and rolling and ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. That's good to know. Maggie, you not only are doing takeout, you got another little project that you're kind of working on.
Oh, so during this portion of life, over the winter, we launched a new soup company, Just Soup Paso Robles, which is super exciting. Super exciting. Sorry, it's the Rava. So every day from 11:30 to 6, we have this takeout soup joint. So 3 soups a day. It's totally virtual. So you order online, either come pick up at the hatch or we deliver as well. And so that's been really fun to concentrate on because even in the middle of all this madness, we're still crazy entrepreneurs. So we needed another project. And then kind of coinciding with all of this, which is the craziest thing we've ever done, we are opening up a new restaurant right next door from the hatch. We are under construction right now, probably another 6 weeks of construction. But we're gonna have Della's wood-fired pizza and California cocktails come probably early April or maybe even late March. So we're keeping busy over here.
That's great. That's awesome. I'm stoked to hear that. And I can't wait to one of these days sit there and have a wood-fired pizza. And
one of these days.
Yeah. And the Just Soup thing, you guys, oh my gosh. I know you just took the French onion soup that has the short rib in it off the menu, hopefully temporarily, because I've been absolutely loving that soup. It is so
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah,
we're rotating through a bunch of fun things.
Awesome. Debbie, I know you have a new chef, but you're not taking those lentil tacos off the list, are
Nope.
you? Okay,
Nope.
good.
Nope, those are not coming off. In fact, he came in and he goes, I don't understand this. I don't get how this is put together. I'm saying, don't even worry about it. Someone will make one for you and you'll understand, but they're not going off the menu.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, you've got Super Bowl weekend coming up. You've got all kinds of, you do family dinners. What's happening? What's next?
We're really looking forward to the weekend here coming up with, Super Bowl on Sunday. It's not really a big restaurant kind of day, but doing what we do here, we're offering some really killer specials, doing wings, 2 dozen wings for $24. We're doing our ribs. We've marked down our ribs as a special for Super Bowl. So we're doing $25 for a rack of our slow smoked, we call them pork belly ribs. A lot of people ask questions about what a pork belly rib is, and that's a menu name that I created. Folks might be familiar with them as St. Louis style ribs, but we live in San Luis Obispo County, so I decided to go with the pork belly ribs. They're super, super tender. We smoke them for 6 hours, glaze them with our barbecue sauce, wings and ribs, mac and cheese, paella. Super Bowl is great. And also, we're excited this Saturday is Paso Robles High School homecoming. So the Paso Robles High School had reached out to us. So we're going to be doing a family style lasagna special and offering, we're going to be doing a drive through all of the all of the seniors, and it's all of Paso Robles High School is going to be celebrating homecoming this weekend. But in a COVID era, they're not able to do the dance that probably we all went to. And I really feel for the kids who are, it's hard enough for the restaurants and the businesses that are struggling, but the folks that are just out there trying to get through life on a day-to-day basis, and homeschooling kids and kids not being able to hang out with their friends like they did in the old days. We're going to try to bring a little bit of sense of normalcy, and so you'll be able to come to us, and we'll have the lasagna family meal. We're going to be offering a discount for all the Paso Robles. If you mention Paso Robles High School homecoming, we'll kick you down a discount. And that's going to be this coming up weekend. And yes, as we get into a couple weeks away, Valentine's Day is a great time to kind of get out. Luckily, the weather is working on our side right now. We had an unbelievable storm that kind of shut down outdoor dining for a little while. But anytime we can get great weather, I know the winemakers and the grape growers in town are praying for some more rain, and as we would like to see it too. But we want it to rain like between the hours of 10 p.m. and like 7 a.m.
Yep.
If we can make that happen. Can I ask
Same here. That would be great.
We're all with you, Jeff. We're all with you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Maggie, Debbie, for being on the show today. Cheers to you. Cheers to success in Paso. Love you guys so much for being on today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Fritz.
Cheers.
Right on. And we'll hopefully all be open and everything will be rocking and rolling again. Hopefully by summer, as they're saying, once we see more and more positive numbers and data and all that good stuff all across the country, including California. But as all three have said, we do rely a lot on tourism in our area. And we're still seeing people visit and they're being very respectful of us and the locals and themselves as well. And so, people are still kind of coming and going. It's just some smaller numbers, but hopefully one of these days soon we'll be all back to normal and we'll be hanging out in each other's places and enjoying a good cocktail and hopefully some French fries and champagne. So until then, though, check us out next time on Paso Wine Hour next Thursday, where I'm doing a Chicago show. It's kind of weird, but we have a few people in this town that are all like Chicago people that are in the wine industry. We're also going to be having Master Sommelier Joe Spellman on, who lives in Chicago and will be talking to us from there and tasting through the wines and giving his opinion on as a master sommelier. And so he's a good guy. He's a down-to-earth Chicago boy that is always a fun conversation. Join us next week for that, 3 o'clock again on Thursday. Thank you, everybody. Cheers. Woo.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.